Hey there, welcome back. So, two of my favorite NES games are DuckTales and Mega Man 6. Now these are really fun games, but they're also very colorful. So let's look at the player sprites for these two games. Here we have Mega Man, here we have Scrooge McDuck. Both of these characters are made up of 5 different colors. For Mega Man we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing for Scrooge McDuck. Now, if you've been developing NES games with NESmaker or from scratch, you know that a sprite can only have 3 colors. So there's some trickery going on here. Now, you may know this already, but there's something called sprite overlay. It's a technique where you place one sprite on top of the other, but you have to do it in a seamless way. So it looks like Mega Man or Scrooge McDuck actually are more colorful than they really are in a way. So here I have 3 test games that I made. Now, each of these characters actually have 6 colors. So it's a little hard to see, so let's zoom in on this guy. Maybe you can see it better now. There are actually 6 colors on this guy. So how do we do this? Well, like I said, we need 2 different objects or characters. One over here, 3 colors. One over here, 3 colors. But we need to place one on top of the other, like this. You have this guy, and then we put the other on top of him, so it looks like this. So the way we do this in NESmaker is having 2 objects. Now the second one is not really an object, but we're going to come back to that. But we need to have graphics like this. This is the player object. And we need to make matching graphics for each of the frames in the animations. And of course they need to use their own palettes. So we need 2 different palettes. Now, the good news is that our friend Synesthist, once again, he has made something really cool. He has done something that makes sprite layering, sprite overlay. It makes that very easy for us in NESmaker. So he has a tutorial for that. I'm going to link that below. But this is really cool. So let's just get started. Here we are on the NESmaker Forum. Now, and here's the tutorial by Synesthist. Now, it's really simple. He has described this in 6 different steps. So, we're not going to go through this right now. I'm going to show you how that works in NESmaker. But in order to use this tutorial, we need to download this file here at the bottom. So I have done that here. I have done that here in on my computer. So here is the zip file. I've unzipped it here. And Synesthist has made one of these for the different modules. Arcade platformer, shooter, platformer. Now, there's not one called Metrovania here, but there is one called H-Scroller. So that's the one I'm going to use because I'm going to make a Metrovania game. So you need to copy that to your NESmaker folder, NESmaker project. So game engine data routines base 4.5 game, and since I'm making a Metrovania game, I'm going to put it in that folder. And I just put it here in the mod Metrovania subroutines folder. There's the Doodle Sprites H-Scroller with layers. I put mine there. But it's not enough just to copy a file in NESmaker. We also need to tell NESmaker about that new file. So I'm going to go to Project Settings, Script Settings, and all the way down here where it says Handle Drawing Sprites, the file called Do Draw Sprites. I need to replace that with the new one. So I select this one. Over on the right, go to Base 45, Game, Mod Metrovania, and Subroutines. And there is the new Do Draw Sprites H scroller. So I'm going to double click on that one, and now I'm using the new file by Sinestist. And while we're here in Project Settings, we also need to do one more thing. We need to go to 0 page RAM. We need to add a new variable here. So add, go all the way to the bottom, and this one, not set. We need to call this one layer. Need to call this one layer. All right. So what I've done here, this is a default NESmaker game. Right now I have just set up this player object. Idle right, idle left, move right, move left, jump right, jump left. So normal stuff, right? Nothing special, just normal stuff. So if I test this game right now, let's see what this game looks like right now. Okay, there we go. So here's my game. Here's my little guy. As you can see, he's not really very colorful. He almost blends in with the background, but we can see his eyes. So I want this guy to be a lot more colorful, because right now he just has 3 colors. Alright, so I already did the important things like using Sinestist's new Do Draw Sprite file, and I made this new variable, 0 page variable called layer. So what I need to do now, I need to first of all, if I go to my pixel editor here, it's a little hard to see, but here are the graphics. Let's just do it this way. So here is my player graphics. So what I did is that, like I said in the beginning, I made some matching graphics down below. And the way I did that was just by copying these. So before you start a project like this, you should really try to complete all the drawing as much as you can, because it's a little cumbersome to fix this once you start including this technique. So what I did here was I copied the graphics, the animation graphics, and I pasted them here down below. So right now, as you can see, if you look at these purple parts here, those are transparent, right? So those are the ones I want to fill in down here. So if I choose this other palette down here, oops, I need to fill in these. But this is where it becomes a little tricky, because now I need to make sure that I fill in these, all of these areas that are transparent, and after that I need to remove them, so I'm only left with the parts that are the fill parts down here. So in the end it should look like this. So up here I have the one of the main character. Down here we have the sort of extra graphics. So if you can see, you can probably see that this one fits over this one fits over this one, and so on. So that's, I have the graphics in place here. So what I need to do now for this to work, for SignalTest's script to work, I need to go to my player object. Now this needs to be, I need to have set up all the animations. Like I said, it's nothing special. I've just done everything in a normal way. Idle, idle left, idle right, move left, move right, and so on, right? So this is already done. Okay, so now I can just right click my player object and choose export game object. And I'm just going to export this guy onto the desktop on my PC. And I'm going to call this player object. Right? So now I have exported my player object to the desktop on my computer. So now I just need to choose where I want this extra object to be. So I'm just gonna choose this first effect object down here. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8 objects down from the player. And I'm gonna call, well actually I'm just gonna import the player object that I just exported. So I'm here on effect 0, I right click and choose import game object. And from my desktop I choose the player object that I just exported. So I do that, and now I basically have a copy of my player object that I have up here. But I don't need two identical graphics for this. So now here on my second, this is not really a player object, but let's just say that it's, I'm gonna call this player overlay. This guy down here is the player overlay. This is the new sprite that's going to go on top of the normal sprite, normal player sprite. But I need this to be the extra graphics that I made down here, and I also need them to be in another, use another palette. So I'm just gonna choose a new palette down here, and now I just make sure that I select the correct corresponding graphics, because alright, I need to fix this. Yeah, there we go. That should work. Yeah. So I need to select, this is the idle right for the player overlay. For idle left, I need to select this the second palette, and I select the graphics, overlay graphics for that. So now I idle left, idle right, move right. Now I need to select the extra graphics for that one. So like I said, it's a little bit cumbersome, but once you get the hang of it, it's really not that bad. So here I have selected the frames that correspond to how I set up the move right animation for the player sprite. So you have to remember just how you did it on the first object here. Then move left, just set up the graphics for that. Frame 2, frame 2, frame 3, and frame 4 for the move left animation. And finally, jump right. I have this one. I can just copy this one and flip the frame. So now, if I save this, now I have the normal player object here, and I have sort of a copy of it down here. I call this player overlay. So it's very important that they have the exact same animations. So that's why it's important that before you start this process, you should do as much as you can on the normal player object, both drawing and setting up the animations. You should have done all of that before you start. But once you've done that, then you just export this player object and you go, for example, down here, 8 objects down, and you import that player object, and you just set up the animations again, but you select a different palette and you select the extra overlay graphics instead of the normal ones. That's where it gets a little tricky. But here I have set up everything like it should be. So now what I need to do, this is important. I chose this extra object to be 8 objects down on the list here. So the extra object player overlay object is number 8. So here on my normal, the first player object, I go to object details, and for defense here, this has nothing to do with defense, but since it's not normally used in NESmaker, Sinestist just hacked in a little thing here. So here in defense, I need to write the offset for where the next object is, the overlay object. And since I chose 8 objects down, I need to set 8 for defense here. So now on my normal player object, I have 8 for defense. But what that really means is that 8 is the offset for where the overlay object is. So let's try this game. Let's see if it works. So there we go. Well, look at that. And you can even see that the animation for the overlay object matches perfectly with the object we had in the beginning. So his moving animations, jumping animations. If you didn't know any better, you would have guessed that this was just one object. Just one very colorful object. Hopefully you can see that I have quite a few colors on this guy here. Now I've used it mostly for shading in this case, but I do have quite a few colors on this little blob here. So this is really cool. I really like this tutorial by Sinestist. So what I said in the beginning, this second thing that we set up down here, I don't want to talk too much about this because it can get a little confusing. But if you read on the tutorial page by Sinestist, he mentions that this isn't really an object, which means it doesn't take up all of those resources that you would normally take up from an object, like collision and all that kind of stuff. This guy down here is basically just the graphics or the animations. So Sinestist has done a great job when he made this. So basically what we have now is we have this object here, and we have some matching animation graphics that just gets automatically pasted on top of this guy. Now the only thing, like I said, that gets a little bit cumbersome is when you need to go back and change some of the graphics. Because if you want to change, let's say we want to make the eye a little bit bigger here, or whatever, then you would have to make sure that the graphics match up from the normal one up here and the overlay down here. So it's probably just a little practice, but it's something to be aware of. So if you can, you should do finish as much drawing as you can before you start this process. So that's how we can make colorful player characters in NESmaker. We can make it just as colorful as Mega Man and Scrooge McDuck. And it's all thanks to Sinestist. So, like I said, I really like this tutorial. It's really cool. And I hope you have a lot of fun with this. But that's it for now. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.